It is a gorgeous Friday. We are, in fact, you've been working for the weekend all week, right? It's here. Start it now. Noon on a Friday. Start it now. I'm giving you permission. I have no ability of oversight of what you do. But what the hell? It's Friday. It's noon. Let's go, right? It's a gorgeous day, and it's going to be a great weekend. You've got Indiana and Illinois under the lights at Memorial Stadium. You've got Purdue and Notre Dame taking place up in South Bend. Apparently somebody was mad at the way that I pronounced the schools. That's cool. That's 3:30 tomorrow. 25.5-point spread. Purdue's going to cover that, by the way. You've got the Colts and the Tennessee Titans down in the home of the bachelorette parties, Nashville, Tennessee.
Woo!
That constant noise from sawed-off-the-top convertible-made school buses all around Nashville. And you also have the thing with which, and I understand it, and I ask for you to hear me out here. I mean, it's a sports talk radio program, so I don't know whether the way you would ingest it, to be honest with you, other than to hear this, but I get it. During the NFL season, and we get all of the research. We have all of the metrics, and we can look at the show the next day, and we can track how many people are listening and where they are turning away to. And, you know, it's like when people say that, you know, this or that is the number one show in town, or this or that is the show that's sliding. You know, we know the truths. We know the reality. And I know what sells. This is a delicatessen. I'm running Query's Delicatessen, and I am well aware that 9 out of 10 people that walk through the door of that delicatessen from 12 until 3, they want their ham and turkey. And ham and turkey is the National Football League.
It's Jake Query and Eddie Garrison, Jake. That is ham and turkey.
That's right. No, we are actually your mayonnaise.
What? Excuse me?
For others, an acquired taste.
Excuse me?
But the reality is that when you do what we do for a living.
Is this another fat joke?
And no, it's a I have yet to warm to it joke. When you're Baskin Robbins or you're Shapiro's, you are well aware of what sells most. And you're well aware that you might be the biggest lover of pistachio ice cream on the planet. You might be the biggest lover of pastrami on the planet. But if your customers are asking for flavors that are in variation of that, you better stock it. Or else, at the very least, you're going to end up with an ice cream store or a delicatessen where you've got plenty of time to sit around and eat your favorite because nobody else is walking through that door. And I totally understand when it comes to football season that the National Football League and the Indianapolis Colts are exactly the ham and turkey. It's what 9 out of 10 people walking through that door want to hear about. And I love that because I love the NFL, and I love the fact that it affords us the opportunity to collectively come together as a city. And I love the fact that it puts the city in spotlight when there are primetime games. I love all of it. And I love the fact that the Colts are a story right now, a national story. And I thought about it last night because I'm watching the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. And as I'm watching it, I'm thinking to myself, for what reason, locally speaking, would I have interest in the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins? Well, I guess I want Buffalo to win this game because I think the Bills are going to win their division regardless, so they may as well be the team that is keeping wild card potential teams totally at bay. Because while I think the Colts are in very good position here at the outset in terms of their division, there is still the possibility that the wild card may be their entry into the postseason a million years from now, weeks from now. But if that's the case, you've got to start looking at other teams that are not going to be clear divisional winners, and you don't want bid stealers. This is the NCAA tournament selection time. Indiana, is going to be, or Purdue, or whoever your Butler is going to be the team that is looking to get in that 9 seed range. You've got to start making sure if Kansas is playing Missouri, and Missouri's a 9-range team. You want Kansas to win that game because they're going to get in anyway. And that's how you look at that game last night. But you also look at it because the Colts eviscerated the Miami Dolphins. And Buffalo is one of the best teams, we think, in the league, and yet that was a game last night. And that gives you more reason of optimism for the Colts. The reason I say all of this is because I'm talking your ham. I'm talking your turkey. If I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills, I'm talking your croissant, part of what you need or you want when you come into my deli. And I'm going to start out here and talk a little bit about pastrami, because I know that not everybody that comes into my delicatessen wants pastrami, but it's on special today, and I want you to just have a small sample of it. I want you to have a sample of it because I understand, and we both know when you walk in that door, you want turkey, and I'm about to give you turkey.
What about capicola?
Yeah. That would be more like the capicola would be more like my Clemson football conversation. It's there. We know it's there. I like it, right? But you're super excited when you meet somebody else that likes it.
Pepperoni?
The same. So here's what I'm going to give you as the sample, and I'm going to ask that you enjoy it while you know that we're preparing your turkey sandwich. This city and this market, I think people know that I love Indianapolis. And I love when the city is represented correctly, properly, when there is reason for people to be proud of who we are and what we are. And in the last year, we have seen that in sport. And one of the things that I am the most proud of, one of the things that I am the most thankful for, is the way that this city collectively comes together when it's most needed. And sport is a big part of that. We are right now, and I think most people know this, we have talked about it. I don't need to go any further into it just because people are aware of it. We have always been a country that is of divisive thought, independent thought, different than the independent thought of your neighbor, and etc. But now it is so much more pronounced. Due to social media, due to different things, you could say that it's more divisive now. I think it's more so just that our independence is pronounced versus other people, and you now know when you see everybody what makes them different than you. And we, at times, are deviating from embracing what it is that instead makes us common with one another. And in this town, one of the things that made us common was we put all of our differences aside during the Pacers rally. And when the Pacers made their run and their miraculous finishes and their getting one half away from winning the NBA title, it was awesome in all areas because people in this town, no matter their socioeconomic background, no matter their theological background, no matter their political background, no matter the neighborhood they were from, everybody came together and were walking down the street like, yes, sirs. And we were one, and it was wonderful. And you always, I think, with sport, are chasing that high of that camaraderie and that feeling that you get, that self-worth that you get by knowing that you live in a place that you can be proud of. And we really did, I think, in places that nobody talked about at cocktail parties, have hesitation or wonder or curiosity or concern that we were going to have to put that all on the shelf because Tyrese Halliburton was out for a year, Miles Turner went to Milwaukee, and the Colts were not expected to have a great year. We were mourning the loss of their owner, a philanthropic pillar of this town. We were mourning the loss of Forrest Lucas, a philanthropic pillar of this town. And we were looking at a team that was using a cast-off quarterback from the New York Giants to overtake and run the franchise. And lo and behold, they get out to win number 1 over Miami. They get out to win number 2 then by, after that Miami game where we were like, okay, but Miami might actually be terrible. And then the Denver game, yeah, they got a gift. They got a gift there at the end, but don't look a gift horse or a gift bronco in the mouth. Take 2-0. And people now are starting to become cautiously optimistic about the Colts. And we're starting to believe that, in fact, we might have an autumn or a winter that continues this good nature feel about ourselves. But we don't need to wait until then because of the pastrami that I have to offer you while you wait your turkey sandwich. And that's this. I saw something last night that is why sport is so wonderful. I turned on the Indiana Fever game. I actually was at dinner last night, and the Fever game was on, and after I spent 30 minutes lamenting the fact that dark painted court in Atlanta and the weird television lighting that they have on ESPN combined to make it look like I was watching in television in 1983, and it was really difficult to see what was going on. Once I got done with that and put on like 3D glasses and pretended I was watching Avatar, I was able to enjoy the game. And it felt, for the most part of that game, like Atlanta and the Dream were about to make the Fever wake up and their dream was going to be over for the year. And every time that the Fever would get it close, Atlanta would go on a run. At one point in the fourth quarter, and it was, I believe it was a 7-point game going into the half, and then I think the Fever might have cut it to 5 or 2 at the half. I can't remember, but Atlanta very quickly then got that like 5 to 7 point cushion again. And as I was watching it, I was thinking, this just feels like one of those tigers by the tail that you never totally grasp and get a hold of. And the Fever at one point tied the game, and Atlanta immediately went on a 5-0 run, hit a 3, went back up 5 immediately, and I turned around to Shannon and I said, I think it's over. And that was with like a little over 6 minutes left. The Fever cut the lead to 2 with 6 minutes and 6 seconds left. The score in that game was 80-78 for presumably 2.5 months. In all actuality, it was 80-78 for, I've got to think at what point somebody then scored another basket. But it was 80-78, and then eventually the Fever tied it with 3:21 left. So nearly 3 minutes, it was 80-78, and then the Fever tied it. But during that stretch of doldrum where Indiana couldn't get a basket, there was a lid on the basket, they couldn't get it, they couldn't get over that hump. And with 4 minutes and 26 seconds left to go in that game last night, after the Fever at that point had been trying for probably 4 possessions, 4 empty possessions, and playing defensively. And a lot of times when you see a team that has to work that hard defensively, the pendulum swings back the other way because the fatigue kicks in because you have been working so hard defensively. But I'm watching this, and I'm thinking about the fact that if they lose, they go home. And if they win, they are in one of the 4 teams left in the WNBA playoffs. And I'm thinking about the injuries this year. And I'm thinking about that Caitlin Clark is out. And I'm thinking about that Sophie Cunningham's out. And I'm thinking about the fact that Ari McDonald goes down. And every player they brought in seemingly 2 weeks after coming in is then all of a sudden injured and out for the year. And Aaliyah Boston is trying to keep them alive. And Lexi Hull's hitting shots. And Kelsey Mitchell's being Kelsey Mitchell. And Stephanie White's on the sidelines, and she's at one point yelling out repeatedly on a defensive set to get them to buy in. And you can tell that they're doing everything they can to cling on to this fact that they're within a basket of Atlanta. And with 4:26 to go in the game, from what I could tell on that dark screen, the ball trickles out of bounds off of an Atlanta player right in front of the Fever bench. And the Fever bench, who have seen multiple and repeated empty possessions for their offense, jumped up like Todd Meyer, not the one we work with, but the one from Oshkosh, Wisconsin that played at Indiana, jumping with both arms up and his legs kicked to the side when Keith Smart hits that shot in 1987. They jumped up the way the rest of the team did in New York when Tyrese Halliburton's teardrop finally fell through after nearly hitting the sky. Not teardrop, but I'm saying a teardrop from the sky when it bounced off the back of the rim and went through with that shot he hit to force overtime in Game 1 when the Pacers went on to win. They erupted, did that bench like the crowd did when the Pacers were able to beat Milwaukee on that miracle 4-point play. And they did that. And I looked at Atlanta, and I said to myself, this game's over. This game's over because the Indiana Fever players in that moment saw the result of their resiliency. Their resiliency not just as a franchise and having to overcome injury after injury after injury. The resiliency in this game of being down one game, Love, coming back, winning at home, having to go back on the road, win another one to try to advance from there. The resiliency that was taking place in that game, and the fact that in that moment, instead of looking like there was a weight off their shoulders by getting that turnover, that bench erupted in a way that it was like they knew they were going to win that game. And they score, and they still got down again, but then they scored the last 7 points in that game, and they win. And I'm watching it, and I'm saying to myself, this is nothing more than a pastrami sample for our radio listening audience, because they want their turkey of hearing about the Colts. They want their ham of hearing about the NFL. And they want their croissants of hearing about college football and Notre Dame, Purdue, and Indiana, Illinois. And that's why they tune in to the radio on a Friday. But I thought to myself, in a time when we as a group and as a society and as a people most need camaraderie, here it is for you once again. Sport in this town is providing you reason to feel good. It's providing you reason to be proud, and it's providing all of us reason to collectively come together for a common cause, to root for a team whose jersey says, "Why not Indiana?" And so the Fever advance, and they did so in completely encapsulating not only what has made them unique this year as a team, but what makes this city so great because of the fact that we come together when teams need it, and sport is our unifying bond. And so it is a pleasure and, once again, a privilege and an honor today to talk to you about sports for the next 3 hours. And I give a ton of credit to the Indiana Fever for the way they won that game last night, because I know a lot of you probably didn't watch it. A lot of you probably are like, I can't believe on a Friday, on a football Friday, that's what this guy's talking about. And I get it, which is why we will talk predominantly about football for the rest of the show. But Debbie Antonelli is going to join us on the program today, and we're going to talk about what happened last night. And then we get back into every variety of turkey that you want. The oven roasted, the mesquite, the smoked, the plain with nothing in it, with no sodium added. We got it all. Because Tom Noy is going to join us on the program to talk about Notre Dame. They have Purdue coming up. It's a 25.5-point spread in that game. Kyle Neddenrip, our friend from the Indianapolis Star, is going to join us on the program. We'll talk high school football, big games tonight. I love Friday Night Lights in Indiana. And then Kevin Bowen's going to join us at 2 o'clock, and we will get the latest, as we will talk about over the course of the day, on the Colts, which we'll get to now as they get set for the Tennessee Titans. Injury report, Eddie, reality is this. The Colts look pretty darn good in their injury report because we were concerned about Tyler Warren. We were concerned about Liatu Latu. Sure, there is still concern anytime that a player is in concussion protocol, as we have with Ward. But right now, it looks like the Colts are trending in the right direction in terms of their health report card.
Yep, in terms of yesterday's practice report, Josh Downs, full participant. Liatu Latu, full participant. Tyler Goodson, full participant. Javarius Ward, full participant. All of those players out there again today for the Indianapolis Colts.
Now, the
Tyler Warren limited yesterday, but back on the field again today for practice.
Telling you, Tyler Warren is the key, man. But it's a dangerous thing to say in the National Football League. There are no givens in the NFL any given Sunday, right? What's the NFL stand for? Not for long. Now, the not for long mantra usually means, yeah, if you are a quarterback that can't learn a system, you're not going to be a starter for long. You're a quarterback that can't pick up a blitz in a preseason game against Baltimore, your finger's not going to stay in place for long. You are a defensive back that gets signed for a team to go play in a game in London, and instead you take the train on Saturday night to go to Paris and buy yourself a bunch of clothing without reading your playbook, and then you become absolutely a toasted English muffin. Not for long. And the other thing that's not for long in the NFL is exactly who you are as a team. Sure, there are teams that absolutely from wire to wire are unbelievable. The last time the Colts started 2-0, 2009, that team went 14-0. You knew wire to wire they were going to be unbelievable. They get to the Super Bowl, and then, dare I say, onside kick. But still, that team was good the entire season. There have been Colts teams that have started out and you wondered what the heck was going on. But they didn't stay bad for long because guys got healthy. They started to find rhythm. They started to believe. The Bursa sack healed itself, or Ted Marchibroda says, let it rip. And before you know it, you're on a magic carpet ride. Those things happen too. With this particular team, they're 2-0. And you say to yourself, they should start 3-0. Does Tennessee scare anybody? Do the Titans scare anybody? But not for long. You can't get too high on it because you look at last night and the fact that, I turn over and I'm just under the assumption that as soon as I turn over to Amazon Prime, that the Bills are going to be up 21-3 in the second quarter and it's over. And I turn it on and I'm like, wait, this is a tie game late. Now, Buffalo won the game, but Miami did not look completely incompetent. Miami did not look completely neutered. And so then you say to yourself, wait a minute. Is this the same team that the Colts completely – Miami was never in that game against the Indianapolis Colts. Yet here's Miami in Buffalo, and they're hanging around against a team that many believe is the favorite to win the conference. Does that mean good news for the Colts, or does it mean, not for long, that a team that might have been terrible in week 1 actually found something because they have a week to turn things around or 2 weeks to turn things around and something started working? Point being, while it looks on paper like an automatic fait accompli that the Colts are going to go down and take care of business in Tennessee and start 3-0, and then the Sugar Plum Fairies really start dancing in your head. Partially because that division, Jacksonville, Houston, Tennessee, yeah, okay. But partially for those reasons, you think to yourself, you try not to get ahead. But you just don't know, is my point. I think they go down. Eddie, would you agree? By all account, they go down there, and even if they simply almost just tiptoe their way through and dodge 15,000 bachelorette parties on the way, they're going to be in good shape, right?
Yeah, as long as they pass the woo girls, they'll be fine and not get distracted.
There's that one, I believe is it Tootsie's is the bar down there?
Yeah.
It's the big one right across from the arena.
Yeah.
And they got a guy that walks around on Broadway with a pet goat. And then if you walk up to pet the goat, he's like, $5. What? There's all kinds of distractions down there in Nashville. But I don't think that any of them are inside the walls of Nissan Stadium. But you got to go down and play the game.
Look, divisional games are always weird, too. Like, spread last night, that game was, I think, closed at 11.5. And for a while there, it looked like Miami was going to be able to win it. They were sure as hell able to cover that 11.5. So, divisional games get weird, Jake. You never know what could happen. Especially when you're on the road.
That's true.
It's your first road game of the year.
There's no doubt there's no question about that. Road games are always tough, but road games are always that much more special when you win one. And that happened last night, as I just talked about. We're going to go back one more time for the pastrami because I do want to discuss what took place last night because I think it was special. I think it was unique. And the Fever getting that win last night. And Debbie Antonelli is going to join us on the other side. And to one member of the company, we have an excused absence from the company today and a special congratulations to extend within the company. I'll explain that as well next. And Notre Dame coming up tomorrow, 30 minutes from now. We're going to go up to South Bend, talk about that. We will get back into the Colts and Titans in about 15, as well as, Eddie, are you a WrestleMania guy?
Nope.
Am I correct in saying that WrestleMania is back in Indy?
I don't even know, Jake.
I don't know when that takes place. John Cena. I thought John Cena's retired like 46 times.
I thought so as well.
Am I wrong in that?
I don't know.
Joining me now on the program, and I'm sure she's thrilled to be doing so based on that incredulous comment that we just had about wrestling. Debbie Antonelli is a WNBA analyst, has worked many a Fever game, and last night, the Fever advancing by defeating the Atlanta Dream, closing on a 7-0 run. Debbie, I thought last night, and I want your thought on this, there was about a 3.5-minute period, just under 3 minutes actually, period, where the Fever, who had just been chipping away, they got it down to 2 points. It was 80-78 for seemingly what felt like a month and a half. But I thought that the resiliency that they showed, not only to continue to get stops, but to go offensively when there was a lid on the basket for a while there, and then tie the ball game. I just looked at it and I thought to myself, they are going to win this game because that is the nature and the overall mentality of this team with everything they've been through this year. Did that last 5 to 7 minutes encapsulate their season?
I think that's so well put, Jake. This is clearly, we've used it over and over, a resilient group. You're going to face adversity at some point, whether it's a turnover or something larger like the Fever have dealt with all season with injuries. It just speaks to the incredible job, the character of the individual, and that while other teams may appear to be more talented, there doesn't seem to be anybody more connected. And sometimes that communication, that belief, that willingness to sacrifice whatever it might be inside a single possession or on a larger scale in preparation. The Fever have it. They've checked all the boxes, and Stephanie White has done a hell of a job coaching this group.
You know, Debbie, it's interesting because I brought this up to Stephanie White, and I'm not going to say she poo-pooed it, but I understand from a coaching standpoint she still has navigation to do, right? So I want your thought on this. I was curious whether or not, when you look at what the Fever have been through this year from an attrition standpoint and having to sign players that were not on the roster at the beginning of the year, and then even those players get hurt, and you're continuing to add to the roster over the course of the season. So you have players on your roster that they have to have an individual resiliency just to be playing this year. So does that not then kind of carry into the team itself because of the fact that it's one thing to sell overcoming adversity. It's another thing to put players on the floor that had to do that just to be on the roster within the last month? Doesn't that seem to kind of carry over?
I don't think there's any question. Conceptually, most teams run something very similar with a tweak or change. Maybe it's a rhythm or an acceleration at a certain point during certain sets. But having a group of players, and this really speaks to the larger picture on where the women's game is. The players that have come in are plug and play and ready to go. Conceptually, they've been at places where people run the same thing. The vernacular might be a little different. And like I said, the pace or the rhythm might be a little different. But to have a group of players come in and say, we're going to run this pin down action for Kelsey Mitchell, and it's one of the best actions we run. And everybody goes, yeah, we get it because we've been watching. We're ready. We stay ready. We know what it's going to require. We understand. But that speaks to a higher level of character or purpose of people on a second chance, knowing that this is their livelihood. They want to play, and they want to stay. And in order to do that, you got to play your role to the best of your ability. And they have found the right characters to be able to plug in and do that. It's really an exceptional job from the front office all the way through Stephanie and her staff and to each individual player to be ready when their number is called.
Debbie Antonelli is our guest. She, of course, a WNBA analyst. You see her on a lot of the Indiana Fever games over the course of the regular season. Fever advancing by winning last night in Atlanta. They will now take on Las Vegas, one of the best teams in the WNBA in the semifinals. Debbie, last night at periods of that game, and I think this is true at times with the Fever, and I want your thought on it. I understand their lightning in a bottle nature, in particular of their three-point shooting, which eluded them in game number one. But do they go through periods where they become too perimeter reliant and not balanced enough offensively?
I think there are certain combinations on the floor that might be better defensively, and then you simplify what you're doing offensively. I think there's combinations that Stephanie puts on the floor that give them an accelerated pace. I'm a big believer in constantly changing the rhythm of the game. I do think getting a piece of the paint, protecting the paint, there's three levels to defense. It's ball pressure, it's protecting inside out, and then it's the ability to have some rim protection. I do think Stephanie has some interchangeable parts. There are players that during times of the game may leak to the perimeter more than they're a physical team by nature. Aaliyah Voss is not afraid to get in there and bang. Natasha Howard is going to get in there and bang. But when Turner's on the floor, it might have a little bit of a different look. Natasha has that combination to slash. So playing through the paint, getting a piece of the paint, spraying it once you get it to the paint, there are a lot of ways that you got to use the interior part of your offense to be able to set up your perimeter game. And I think there is a balance to that, and I think it's predicated on personnel and what Stephanie thinks she needs at the time.
Debbie, my favorite pacer, and I've talked about this on the show, my favorite pacer is Aaron Nesmith, and I'll tell you why. I love Aaron Nesmith because he'll guard. He's not worried about who he has to guard. But more importantly, he can give you 20 without having to orchestrate plays to get him 20. He is perfectly comfortable and capable. Whatever role you need from him offensively, he accepts no matter how large nor how minimalized that role seemingly is within the flow of an offense. And I think every team needs players like that. Who is the Fever's Aaron Nesmith?
I love Aaron Nesmith, too, because he's a Charleston kid.
I did know that. You got South Carolina bias, right?
Yeah, I got a little bias, too, yes. I think he's a wonderful young man. He's a hard worker. He's got the character of a champion. We saw that on display this year based on the way you described him, Jake. I think Lexi Hull is that person for the Indiana Fever. She doesn't get enough credit for the role that she plays. She's a knockdown three-point shooter. She's not shot it well right now. Typically, she's at one point during the season, because I was tracking this, she was the best corner three-point shooter. She had made the most. But defensively, she can guard. She gets skinny over the top. She's excellent at top blocking to disrupt their rhythm. I don't think she gets enough credit defensively for the role that she plays, and I think she's that kind of player for Indiana right now. And I think Sophie Cunningham is that player when she comes back as well.
Debbie, I wanted to touch on one thing while I have you here that relates to the Fever, but not necessarily directly to the Fever, and that's this. As I was watching that game last night, and I mentioned the resiliency factor with the Indiana Fever and how I think fans should be happy or proud of that it represents, Indianapolis, and we saw it with the Pacers. And now with the Colts. In athletics in general, in sports, you were an athlete, you played collegiately. You have players on the floor that when you're away from the floor, you realize, when I didn't know that guy or that gal before we were teammates. I didn't like him. And then we became teammates, and they became one of my best friends. Or we are from completely different worlds, completely different ideologies, completely different backgrounds. But in between the lines, we have a common goal and mission, and we have to come together. It seems to me that right now that is as much needed in the world to be able to watch with sports, not only as our escape, but as our lesson plan. And we've gotten away from that lesson plan. And we can see so much within sport, the fact that we need to come together collectively, even with the people that typically we might otherwise marginalize, and say, there's a role there. There's a role there as a teammate, because in reality, we're all on this same team. And it just seems to me like we've gotten away from that. And that is it not, Debbie, is the true beauty and essence and lesson of sport.
I mean, I got chills on that, Jake. That's exactly it. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you've done, how much money you have, where you grew up, who you grew up with, how you grew up. When you come to sport and you come together and you look across the aisle and you see somebody that wants to win and is as competitive, has prepared, you can't help but root for that person that has the sweat equity in it. You get to the playoffs, and that's the beauty of it right there. And you're right about society. We could use a little bit more of this. This is where sport was supposed to play the role in bringing people together. It's a galvanizing thing when you're together in the arena and you're rooting for somebody that you don't even know because they wear the same color uniform that you're cheering for. But then you learn something about them. Now, that's a fan's perspective. The players, how hard they work, what their body language says about serving, about basketball is a servant's game, Jake. I've said this for a long time. I don't know if we've talked about this. There are a lot of things in basketball that do not get statted. How hard you run the floor, how good you are to close out, how good you are to box out, how you get a screen assist, making the extra pass. Some of those things don't get statted on a regular stat sheet. But if you understand the game and you realize that your role on the floor is ultimately to make the game easier for your teammate, and you're all in on that, and you've all put in the work, and you've seen each other do it, that's where the belief comes in. And that's where you know that there's nothing that we can face that we can't face together, that we can't handle. And Stephanie has done a great job managing that. Sometimes teams go up 8. She doesn't call timeout. It depends on who's on the floor. You know, sometimes they have a situation where maybe you're going to let it go one more possession because you believe, because you know who's on the floor. You understand what they've done. They put the time and the rep in. It's a really beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing to talk about, too, because it's fun to be in the playoffs watching all of this happen for the Fever. And what a season for, you know, historically for the Fever to be able to do what they've been able to do.
Debbie, I know you've mentioned this before, but I've never asked, I don't believe, the specific on it, okay? What does your son Frankie do for a living? I know you said that he works, he lives independently. What is his job, or what does he do?
Frankie has 2 jobs. And my son Frankie lives at Clemson after graduating from Clemson Life. He is living independently with support. He is good for a 3, 4, or 5-hour shift that sets him up for success. He works at a pizza place called Your Pie, which is a chain. He works lunches there, and then on the weekends, he works at a place called the Shepherd Hotel. The Shepherd Hotel conceptually was built as a natural transition for Clemson Life graduates to have employment after they graduate. 40% of the people that work at the Shepherd Hotel, it's a boutique hotel, a little bit like 60 rooms, and it has a beautiful restaurant with a rooftop bar, which I call an adult place to hang out at Clemson. And it is he works at the hotel and in the restaurant. So those are the things that he does, basically food service.
And Frankie, for those that are unfamiliar, in the Clemson Life program is an extension of, you know, education and life preparation for individuals with special needs that grew up in that sort of a curriculum. The point, the reason I ask it, Debbie, is this. I didn't know this as a younger person, and I think sports allowed me to see this, and that was when I played basketball, I wasn't a great scorer, but I could be a good screener. And as long as I was a good screener and I played defense, they weren't going to take me off the floor. And guys that were natural scorers more than myself, if they weren't scoring on a particular day, they were on the bench. And I think it's important in life to see the same way as sport, to say, if Frankie, when he is at the Shepherd Hotel or he is working the lunch shift, is the best version of what it is that his role is to serve, then that means that Frankie is more successful than the guy that's an architect that goes in and mails it in every day and does 70% of what's expected of him. And I think that we can see that in sport, with a Lexi Hull or an Aaron Neesmith, game in and game out, and I think that we can learn a lot from seeing that in life as well.
You can learn a lot from watching people's body language and how much they enjoy what they're doing, regardless of whatever it is that they're doing. But you see that pure joy, and it resonates with you because you see somebody who's happy with the right attitude, who's delivering the right body language. Lexi does that, Aaron does it, and Frankie does it in his role and his employment as well, Jake. Thank you for bringing that up.
Now, typically when I go down to Clemson games, I always take pride in the fact that I do a bonsai road trip back, and I try to make it back within 8.5 hours of the game ending, and now I realize I'm going to have to stay at the hotel, right?
That's right.
So now I'm down there for an extra day.
Hey, listen, man, if you can get in there, that place is one of the most popular places at Clemson.
I'm sure. No question. It's a great town, great environment, no question about it. Debbie, I appreciate the time as always, and we look forward to talking to you as the Fever continue here in the WNBA playoffs.
Thank you, Jake. Let's go, Fever.
Love it. Debbie Antonelli joining us on the program. We come back, we'll get you up to speed on who is in and who we don't definitively know whether or not they might be out for the Colts coming up Sunday in Tennessee. We'll fill you in next. An excused absence from the company today for Michael. Hey, Jake. It's Michael, and I can't wait to listen to the show today. I'm getting married at 5 o'clock, so I might need to check out a little early from the company. However, I hope that you grant my PTO. Michael?
Congrats on signing your life away.
Now, Eddie, what are we doing here?
What?
Michael is getting ready to join marital bliss for a life of happiness together. Congratulations to Michael.
Yeah,
here's the bigger thing.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Here's the bigger thing. The fact that Michael would even consider the notion of bringing this dog and pony show into his big day is awesome. And it's a beautiful day for a wedding, right?
I wonder if he plays a drinking game.
Excuse me?
Drinking games. You know, like whenever you reference something, you say a word, you take a drink, take a shot.
Right.
You think he's doing that before the wedding with this program?
What words or phrases would he pick that would most endanger his stability for the wedding itself?
That's a great question. Dog and pony show, if we're looking for a phrase.
Okay. Esoteric, I use that word a lot.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Program.
I use that word a lot. Program. I will say this. It's probably irrelevant for me on the radio to say, I will say this. What the hell else am I going to do? Draw it out for you? You're going to give me an Etch-a-Sketch?
You're on camera, so you can act it out.
On the camera, anybody notice my Billy Beer shirt?
I did, yes.
Are you familiar with Billy Beer?
No.
I have a can of Billy Beer. Do you want a can of Billy Beer?
You know what? I think my dad may have a can of Billy Beer.
I would recommend I don't know that you wanted to drink a can of Billy Beer when it came out, but let alone now.
Okay, so you know those like giant storage containers?
Yes.
He's got them full of empty beer cans.
I'm telling you, beer cans were like quite the collectible in the 70s.
So like there's a chance he may have an empty one in there.
So Billy Beer, if you look it up, Eddie, look up for me Billy Beer. I'm going to guess that Billy Beer was in production in its original run from 1977 to 1978. I'm going to say a 1-year window, if that, 10 months of production.
It was introduced July of 1977.
And I'm going to guess that, and I did not look this up, I'm going to guess that it was out of production by, boy, did it go a year? I will say, if you said July of 77, I'll say it went a year. I'll say September of 78.
October of 78.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did anybody pick it up since then? I think it probably was terrible. But for those that are unfamiliar, Billy Carter was kind of like Roger Clinton. He was like the wild and crazy brother of Jimmy Carter, and he came out with his own beer. I think the can said something like, "I personally attest this is the finest beer out there," or something like that.
So Casey Schwab in the Fantasy Football League chimes in, Jake. I'm surprised he's texting me and not you, but quite frankly.
Really? Quite frankly, it doesn't feel like I say that often. The Colts injury report. What we know is this: Tyler Warren. What's that? Colts is a good one. Yes. Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren's another good one. He has a boo-boo on his toe, right? And I think it's the toe that went to market. But it's come back. It's come wee back all the way home because it looks like Tyler Warren is going to be a go on Sunday because he did practice yesterday, and I think he had a full practice. As a matter of fact, was it limited? Yeah. All of the players that we have kept an eye on and talked about over the course of the week, I believe that everybody yesterday did do some form of practice. I'm looking at it right here before me. I realize that many can do the same. Liatu Latu, he had a full practice yesterday. Bernard Ryman is limited. He has an illness. Do we know what his illness is?
He's just under the weather.
Okay. Tyler Warren was limited with his toe.
What toe? Do we know?
I think it's
is it his 7th toe, his 8th toe?
I think it's his 6th toe. Depending on whether you're starting left or right, it's his 6th because it's the big toe, right?
Now,
so it could be first toe, depending on which foot you're starting with.
Is big toe in reference to the first toe, or is it in reference to the toe that's the longest?
No, I think if it depends on which way you're counting.
Because, I mean, there are people out there, their second toe is longer than their first toe.
Yeah, those people are freaks, and they should not be allowed to wear. I don't know if you know this or not.
I'm a freak then, because I'm one of those people.
Here's a jQuery rule. A jQuery rule before we bring on Tom Noy in just a second here, and we go to South Bend.
Our correspondent for the Fighting Irish.
I'm making a Query and Company business rule.
Okay.
And when I say this, I totally understand. And I can see you people in your car. I can see you people in your office. I can see you people at your desk. I can see you people at home, all of you. Those of you that are under 35 are going to give me that look like you're going to shrug your shoulders, raise your eyebrows like, what? And those over 35 are going to go, amen, brother. At my company, at Query and Company, a fictional company albeit, but whatever company I would run if I became the CEO of a company, there are only 2 rules I would have when it comes to protocol at work. Number 1, nobody can wear flip-flops to work. And number 2, you cannot, while you're in the office, wear earbuds. You are here to communicate with your coworkers, not to walk around and make it look like you're listening to music and trying to tune out everybody else. Communication is the most important part of any business.
Amen, brother.
Really?
Well, yes, there is somebody who shall remain nameless that we work with here that wears the flip-flops with the strap and no socks all the time.
Yeah, that's
and lets the dogs out, and it's quite disgusting.
Immediate ejection.
Yeah.
Immediate ejection.
Immediate. Yes.
The only time I want to hear about your toes if you're on the NFL injury report. Tom Noyes next. Congratulations to Michael on his wedding. Michael, you got 4 hours. 4 hours if you want to don't change your mind. All good. 5 o'clock today.
Congrats on signing the life away again.
Come on, Eddie. Come on. You never know, man. He might be. Maybe Michael completely outkicked his coverage, and for all we know, the fiance won the Powerball.
That's a great point. So Jake, why are you still single then, technically by the government's eyes?
Are you claiming that I outkicked my coverage?
I'm not confirming nor denying that said statement.
I totally readily admit. I'm proud to admit I outkicked my coverage.
Well, then absolutely.
In all areas and aspects. 100%.
So what the hell are you waiting on?
That's a good question there. Did my mom get a hold of you?
No, not
Joining
yet.
us now in the program, and I'm sure thrilled to be doing so based on that conversation, Tom Noy is up in South Bend. South Bend Tribune covers Notre Dame. And, Tom, I'm going to begin with this. We talked to you a year ago about the fact, after the Northern Illinois loss, and as we were moving towards the college football playoff, you were talking about just kind of the tone of what you saw from Marcus Freeman and having to rebound after that game against Northern Illinois. And Purdue was a big part of that, obviously, to get that jump started. But how would you compare that to the overall vibe or atmosphere now with the Irish being 0-2?
I think when we sat here a year ago coming clear of that Northern Illinois game, it was more stunned. Like, wait a minute. How can a team go into College Station, Texas the week before in front of 103,000 people in an SEC setting that nobody in that program had played in before and come away with a 10-point victory and then turn around and lose to Northern Illinois at home? So it was just like, what in the world is going on? So it was stunned last year. At this point, I think it's more anger, disappointment, and just downright frustration as to, were we that off? And when I say we, I say everybody around South Bend, everybody that covers this program, everybody that follows this program. Were we that off base with thinking what this team could be, regardless of the fact that they're playing at Miami and they're playing a ranked Texas A&M team? You score 40 points in your own building, you think you're walking out of there winners. So it's just something where everybody's sitting here now where it's just like, what in the world? How is Notre Dame, which played for a national championship in January, back in the position of, well, here we go again. It's win out or you're going home from the playoff.
The easy answer here, Tom, would be you've got young quarterback play. But yet, I think that's naive, like helicopter observation, because I think their quarterbacks played pretty well. Your thoughts?
After the first game of the season. Now, it was truncated. It was prolonged because Notre Dame was on a bye week after that. But the first time Marcus Freeman stepped in front of the media after the Miami game, I think it was the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, so on. All those questions were about C.J. Carr, and rightfully so, making his first start. Maybe a little shaky at times, maybe a little solid at others. But it took 25 minutes into Marcus Freeman's 30-minute press conference on Monday before anyone asked about C.J. Carr. This team is not 0-2 because of anything C.J. Carr has or hasn't done.
Yeah, I thought defensively, I mean, this goes without saying when you give up 40-plus points at home, right? But more so than that, Tom, and you see it more nuanced than do I. You're around it. That final drive, for example, from Texas A&M, was that about fatigue? Was that about scheme? Was that about just elite athletes on the other side? I mean, to what do we basically pin that on?
I'm going to go the Mike Bray route and pin it on karma, because when we watched this team last year, whether it's out in Los Angeles in the Coliseum as USC's basically getting ready to go in for the tying touchdown, or whatever game you want to pick from 2024, when you watch that defense, you sat there and thought, you know what, this looks really bad. I don't know how Notre Dame's getting out of this, but you know what? They're just going to find a way to get out of it. And lo and behold, Christian Gray goes 99 yards with an interception return, and there's the USC game, and there's the home playoff game, and that kick starts the run to the national championship game. Now, as you sit here 2 games in, the Miami game, late fourth quarter, last drive of the game, Texas A&M game, late fourth quarter, last drive of the game. You're sitting there watching Notre Dame play and thinking, I don't know how Notre Dame's going to get out of this. And you know what? I don't think they are, because all the times that they were able to escape and win 10 straight last year and get to 14-1 before the Ohio State game, there's just a feel about it where you're like, I don't know if these guys have it in them to make that play, whether it's defensively late against Miami and Texas A&M, or the drive with C.J. Carr. What are you going to do with a minute to go in Hard Rock in the opening game? So it's just something where everything that needed to go right last year went right, and everything that could go wrong for this program right now is going wrong, and that's why they're 0-2.
Tom, let's look at their schedule here, okay? If they're 0-2 right now, and I know that it's easy, and look, we got a ton of Notre Dame fans in this area, for sure, right? And I get it. I mean, Notre Dame is – college football is better, probably more exciting, more polarizing nationally speaking when Notre Dame is involved in that playoff. If you look at it right now, Purdue, Arkansas, Boise State, North Carolina State, USC, Boston College, Navy, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, Stanford. Is that enough that if they run the table – right now, they still find themselves ranked 24th if you buy into that at 0-2. If they run the table with those games, does that get them in?
The national narrative is, how in the heck can Notre Dame not go into the playoff at 10-2? The brand, the visibility, the eyeballs, the interest, everything that goes with it.
I would tend to agree with that.
I cannot disagree enough, because and you just rolled off all those teams. Where is the quality win? Because Notre Dame's going to go 10-2. Like, let's say they go 10-2. We're the only ranked teams, or your two best games are the games that you lost. Notre Dame got the benefit of the doubt, and they dodged a huge obstacle last year in being able to still get in, having basically lost the worst game that any playoff team had lost last season. I don't know how they're going to be able to dodge it 2 years in a row, and people are going to – now, again, so much has to happen with the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, whatever. But at 10-2, I can't see people saying, yeah, they're one of the 12 best teams in the country.
I'll tell you what hurts them, Tom. What hurts them, and you're going to laugh, Ole Miss hurt them. Now, people are going, Ole Miss. Jake, what the heck does Ole Miss have to do with Notre Dame?
You're an Ole Miss guy, aren't you?
No, I'm a Clemson fan.
Oh, you're a Clemson. Oh, I'm sorry.
But I don't like Lane Kiffin either, although I will. And I thought the tailgating at Ole Miss a little overrated. But having said that, Ole Miss beat Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And Arkansas is one of those. I think Notre Dame has to look at Arkansas, USC, and Boise State, and at the very least, they need two of those three at the end of the year to really look like good wins.
Yes.
And if Arkansas, Arkansas right now is at 2-1, but they lost to Ole Miss. Arkansas is kind of in the same boat. The SEC slate is loaded, though. If Arkansas can get some quality wins and get themselves to the point of the end of the year, it's like the NCAA Tournament Selection Sunday, isn't it, Tom, at this point?
It is. And the thing is, too, can they go 10-2? Absolutely. Last year, when they were 1-1, we were thinking, it's going to be tough, but I can see a path, because that defense was so good. Now the flip side is true. They can go 10-2, but with that defense, do you trust that defense against Boise State or USC or some team that just comes out of nowhere, or Arkansas? If Notre Dame wins tomorrow 41-0, that's still not going to solve the biggest issue that's going to plague this team going to Fayetteville for the first time. It's going to be, how is that defense going to hold up in an SEC atmosphere at 11 a.m. at a place they've never been? I can't get to a point now where you trust that defense to run off 10 straight wins.
Hey, what is the conversation, I guess, or what has been said this week from Marcus Freeman just in regards to Purdue? And, obviously, I think a year ago you could really make the case. Ryan Walters' fate might have been sealed anyway, but that was, I mean, they wouldn't have put the stamp on it with that, right? Just this Purdue team, new coach. I know they're coming off a disappointment against USC, but at the same, because they had a lot of red zone turnovers. but they do look to me to be more competent, but we still don't know exactly who they are. What has Marcus Freeman said?
Very little, if anything, because it's all about we've got coach speak playbook 101 all week for Marcus Freeman. It's not about who we're playing. It's about us. We need to worry about us. There was a point in Monday's presser when he was asked, Marcus, what do you like about your defense? And he paused and stammered and tripped over the question and was like, I just look at all the bad things. So this is not this. I don't think this has any. I don't know how many times the name Purdue or anybody on that offense or that defense for the Boilermakers has been uttered this week around Notre Dame, because it's like, how do we fix this defense? Because offensively, this team's fine. They're C.J. Carr. Maybe you want to get Jeremiah Love a little more involved. Maybe you want to get Jaden Greathouse more involved. But I think Marcus Freeman is spending every waking moment right now worried about how in the world we're going to fix this defense, and not worried about what Purdue may or may not do on Saturday afternoon over at Notre Dame Stadium.
Interesting thing, Tom, in college football is you have a handful of programs. I would put Alabama in the category I'm about to mention. I would put maybe Oklahoma in this category I'm about to mention, and probably Ohio State. And that is completely irrational fans when it comes to coaching stability, okay? In other words, a team loses back-to-back games, and it's like, oh, hot seat, this is terrible, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think Notre Dame's season is going to collapse. But as Marcus Freeman, is there a situation, is there any possibility this year that it could go south to the point where conversations begin?
I don't know about conversations as far as concerns. Like, there were concerns last year coming clear in Northern Illinois. We'll go back to that game. After that game, it was, I don't know if he's the guy, because this just keeps happening in September. And this was before the 0-2 start. You had Northern Illinois, you had Marshall, you had Stanford, you had a no-show at Louisville, you had a no-show at Clemson. And so after Northern Illinois, it was, I don't know, the jury's still out on Marcus Freeman. Bang, he rips off 10 wins in a row. He gets a massive contract extension. He can't do anything wrong in anybody's eyes. Now it's not, I don't know if Marcus Freeman's the guy. It's, you just got to fire Chris Ash yesterday. But if this goes south, then which is why it made Saturday so disappointing. And what I basically wrote about Saturday night, Sunday morning was they were supposed to be beyond this. Like, well, Notre Dame, they played for a national championship. Maybe this year they can get back and win a national championship. Not this start and stop and sputtering of really big wins and really baffling losses. So unless this goes completely off the tracks, the one person in the crosshairs of every fan is not Marcus Freeman. It's Chris Ash.
I wanted to ask you one other thing. Tom Noyes, our guest, by the way, from the South Bend Tribune. Purdue and Notre Dame tomorrow. Tom, I never asked you about this, I don't think, and we had you on a lot, which I appreciate, during the playoffs last year. After the Indiana game, and I don't think I brought this up to you. If I did, I was going to bring it back up. Indiana right now finds themselves in the spot where they are unbeaten. They go in with Illinois tomorrow night, a big one. Might be the biggest home game in a long time in Memorial Stadium history. And I think there were those – everybody loved Curt Cignetti and still does from an Indiana standpoint. And the bravada and the confidence, at times brash, right? But I think there is some thought that going on game day on the field while Notre Dame is warming up in the background and showing that same Curt Cignetti bravada, I really did for a split second think that because Pat McAfee was on that stage, that for a split second Cignetti actually thought he was doing the McAfee show as opposed to the game day show, and he almost lost sight of that filter. And I thought he went to the roulette wheel one too many times on the push the chest out on a stage where finally the moment was bigger than the check he could write. Is there any, in your thought, accuracy to that assessment?
1,000%. Like, that's great. That's great if you're going to talk a good game like that. but you better back it up and not let Jeremiah Love go 98 yards, 16 seconds or whatever it was into the game, and then you're down, and that game was basically over by halftime. So Kurt Cignetti did the same thing that Notre Dame did the other night against Texas A&M. They puffed out their chest. They stood next to Texas A&M as the Aggies were running off to the field toward their tunnel in pregame, and there was some barking and some woofing and this and that. And it's like, afterward, I said, that's great that Notre Dame can do something like that. But if you're going to do that and you're going to go that far out on the ledge, you better back it up. And Cignetti certainly did not, and Notre Dame obviously did not the other night against A&M.
Tom, appreciate the time as always. 3:30 tomorrow, Purdue and Notre Dame. And look, I get it, I guess. I thought 25.5 or 26.5 or whatever. I was a little surprised by the size of that spread just because it's a Power 5 school. Am I giving Purdue too much credit?
Thought that the same thing this morning. Like, that's a lot of points for a Big Ten team.
Yeah.
A lot of points.
Right. And again, I mean, a Big Ten team, at the very least, I guess we say, with Barry Odom, with, a new attitude, but we'll see whether or not that backs up. But it should be fun tomorrow. Appreciate the time as always, Tom.
You got it, brother. Have a great weekend.
You too. Tom Noy joining us, South Bend Tribune. I do look forward to it. And I think there's going to be some really good games tomorrow. And, I mean, we haven't even gotten into IU and Illinois, but just the overall vibe and energy of that, I think it's going to be pretty awesome. And James Boyd seems awfully confident of his Illini, right? Seems very, very confident of his Illini. And then I thought it was interesting that when James was going on and on about Illinois and how confident he is that they're going to beat Indiana, he did pause long enough to say, oh, and by the way, I've watched him like one time this year. I would imagine James is fairly busy on football weekends because of his responsibilities with the Athletic and covering the Colts, and then obviously with this show and et cetera. By the way, before we get to Kyle Neddenrip, who is going to join us, Kyle Neddenrip going to join us on the program in just a couple of minutes. We'll get the lowdown on high school football and everything going on with that. I did want to pass along a couple of things. First off, to Michael. Now, why would you, Eddie, say, you said he's signing his life away? Is that what you said?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Isn't that what they say? When you get married, you're signing your life away?
I mean, that seems a bit harsh to say it that way, right? But yes, we offer him the most, right? The best.
Congratulations.
Years ago, when I started doing this radio career, long time ago, when I was doing the show with Derek, as a matter of fact.
Oh, no.
I know.
Are we
So I was doing the show with Derek, and we would have, we were out on remote a lot, just as John is, and we got to know different show listeners, and many of them became, all of them became friends. Some became friends, above and beyond just seeing them at the radio shows and that kind of thing.
JMV at Twin Peaks on 82nd Street from 3 to 7, so join him there.
He is at the, that's on the north side, you said, Castleton, right?
Yeah.
One of those that became a friend is, and I say Hans, I believe it may be Hans is her first name, but I loved this story because she moved to Indiana she grew up on a Navajo reservation in New Mexico, moved to Indiana, and had her daughter Margaret became a huge fan of Purdue basketball, and they travel around, and she has been a loyal listener of Sports Talk Radio and a fan of different sports and the Speedway in general, and really embraced the sports culture in Indianapolis. And through different periods of the year, one of the things about Hans that I love is she works at a veterinary clinic, so she's been incredible with giving advice to me during Shannon's OCD battles with the dogs. And so at any rate, over the course of the years at different events or periods of the year, Christmas, birthdays, whatever, I have really enjoyed learning more about or getting to know about the Navajo culture just through hands in sharing that and sharing a part of her background and growing up on the reservation and making different cookies and desserts. And for my family Thanksgiving, she has made, cookies, Navajo cookies and the different delicacies that they enjoy. And at one point during one of the shows that we were doing, she had with her her father, who had come to visit from New Mexico, who was just a delight. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form going to pretend that the life that he had was the same as probably what a lot of us would know just based on growing up on a reservation and having, wonderful children. But, certainly if you go back to when he was a young kid, probably some of the challenges that he would have had, but just a dear man. At any rate, she just sent a thing earlier, about an hour ago, that I saw that her father passed away. And I always admired the fact that she was able to come here and with Margaret now and make Indianapolis her home and take advantage of the wonderful hospitality of the people in this area. But I also am so grateful for the fact that in doing so, she shared with all of us and continues to share with all of us that in which enriched her life from where it was that she grew up. And her father was a big part of that. It was a privilege to have met him. And certainly, I know I can say on behalf of Derek as well, very sincere condolences on his passing. We come back. It is a high school football Friday night. Kyle Neddenrip joins us next. By the way, when is Talk Like a Pirate Day? Is that today?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Now, why did you wait this long to tell me this?
I pushed it in the back of I pushed it in the back of my brain to forget. Got a couple of people texting, and I had to make
People
sure.
love it. People go crazy for the Pirate Talk.
I had to make
now,
sure to read the
I was doing this
message
well
so you
before
didn't
everybody
see it.
else. I was doing this well before everybody else, and then everybody else started doing it. And then, to be honest with you, it was like that one. Remember that one phase everybody was doing when they were planking, and everybody was doing the videos, the Facebook stuff of planking, right?
Oh,
I was doing that before, but there was talk the plank, walk the plank, oh, the plank, I like the plank. And people love the pirate voice. When I do it, kids go crazy for it. I'll be out in public and people come up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, the pirate, can you do that? The Pirates. If you go to Greensburg, Kyle Neddenrip, high school football, he might be going to Greensburg this week for a game or, basketball season, whatever it might be.
Are you talking about the mannequin challenge with Black Beatles playing in the background?
No.
That's not the one you're talking about?
No. The planking. Don't you remember when everybody was planking?
No.
There's a mannequin challenge?
Yes.
I like a man down. So I'm telling you, and I'm a very good my pirate talk is, honestly, Willie Stargell and I once had an entire conversation.
Really?
Because I sound so much like a pirate.
Mm.
Now, Michael, by the way, who had mentioned the fact that he is getting married, and you said that you wanted to come up with a drinking game of things that I do too often, like, for example, I can't believe that we're halfway through before you now mentioned the pirate voice. But Michael did send me a message. Jake, thanks for the shout-out. No drinking games are being played at this time. I don't think my future wife would like me stumbling during our first day. The last thing you want to be on your wedding, of course, is
Speaking of lost and clueless, we bring on Kyle Neddenrip from the Indy Star.
That's right. So Kyle Neddenrip joins us now on the program. High school football in action tonight. Kyle, how are you?
Good. I've made a fool of myself enough. I'm not talking like a pirate on this show. That lead-in is bad enough for me.
Do you ever go to the state fair?
Oh yeah. We used to always go when the kids were younger. I haven't gone didn't go this year, but usually go.
When you go to the state fair, did you ever get one of those the corn on the cob?
Oh yeah.
You know how much it costs?
Gosh, it seemed like a lot.
That's a buccaneer. See?
Don't laugh.
Listen, Kyle.
Well done.
Listen,
Don't
well
laugh.
done.
I got and this. Eddie just opened this can of worms. Just so people know, we've got a little under an hour and a half left of this, and I'm telling you, Kyle. Do you have kids? Just out of curiosity, Kyle.
He just said
Yeah.
he did.
I'm sorry.
Do you not listen?
Well, I've got a lot going on. How old are the kids, Kyle?
They're 18 and 17 now.
Yeah, little old for it, but I can tell you, kids love the pirate voice. Your kids might still, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
They might.
Have you ever covered a game in Greensburg?
Yes.
Is it Greensburg or Eastern? One of those over there is the Pirates, right?
Yes. Yes, Greensburg.
Okay. Any chance we can do their game tonight just to talk about Pirates? Okay.
I was going to look up and see who they're playing.
I'll look it up here for you. Before we
go.
get to that, then tell me this in terms of the games that you are covering tonight. And thank you for joining us, by the way. Some really good games last weekend that we can rehash as well. But the big one tonight for you would be which?
I'm going to see Brownsburg for the first time against Fishers, who I did cover last week, and they got a big win against HSC in that rivalry game and the Mudsock game. So, looking forward to seeing their offense against a Brownsburg team that had quite a tussle on its hands last week against Avon. It was 55-47, and if they struggle again on defense, this is a Fishers team that can really put up points on you. So that's the game I'll be at, and we'll have coverage at several other games. Lapel and Indian Creek will be a really good one. We'll have somebody there at that game. And HSC and Fishers play each other tonight. That'll be a good one. We're also covering Addicts at Addicts and Purdue Poly, which I think will be a really good game and help decide that conference battle. So we'll have people there at all those games. And there's Pendleton Heights and New Pal also be a battle of undefeated teams. So those will be, and we'll have our usual roundup and whatever, but those will be games we'll have people at for sure.
South Dearborn and Greensburg, by the way. South Dearborn. That's a county rivalry, if I'm not mistaken. You talked about Brownsburg. Am I correct in saying, Kyle, that offensively speaking, they are as loaded or as explosive as anybody in the area?
Yeah, they haven't really been stopped yet. And that's kind of and they played obviously some good teams. The Spalding Academy or Archbishop Spalding out of Maryland was first and put up 36 on them, and they're a nationally ranked team. So, I think that's, and the fact that they can do it both running and passing, Avon tried to take Brandon Sharp away last week, and that's the first time, a team has just basically just doubled him everywhere. And they were able to, Brownsburg didn't really go to him because of that, but they were able to run for a ton of yards in that game. A.J. Jobe had a huge game. Also took a screen pass 80 yards for a touchdown. So they find other ways if you try to take one person away, and that's kind of the fun part of the matchups is seeing how teams try to defend you. I'm curious how Fisher's not a huge team. They're from watching them in person a little bit lighter up front than some of the other 6A teams, but they're a very speedy team, athletic team. So we'll see what they try to do defensively. And then conversely, how Brownsburg plays defensively. I'm sure they want to play better than they did last week against Avon. But yeah, definitely. To your question, I think that's the key for any team trying to beat Brownsburg is how do you slow down that offense and how do you keep them from making those big plays both in the run and the pass, which they've done both of this season.
By the way, Eddie, just so you know, Michael that's getting married, do you know what else, once he gets married, you know what else you could call his wife? His first mate. Okay. I'm here all day. I mean, just so you know.
I'm not laughing at these. These are bad.
Kyle, deep down, you like the pirate voice, don't you, Kyle? Kyle, be honest. At any point do you say to yourself, it's hard to believe that's the same guy?
It is. I thought you had somebody else in their studio with you. Maybe.
That's right.
Well, he has me, but
not counting Eddie.
That's right. There's a guy kind of leaning over here on one side, because the wooden leg and all. Okay, Kyle, is Kevin Wright for real? I mean, I know that Kevin Wright as a coach is for real, and for those that are unfamiliar, Kevin Wright, who won state championships at Warren Central, won at Carmel, and then, he left. He was in Oklahoma. He was at IMG Academy. He was at IU for that matter, and back leading the Carmel Greyhounds. And I think what he's done here is very impressive. How much have you had a chance to kind of dive into what they're doing?
Yeah, definitely. I talked to Kevin before the season, and then I was out there, I guess it would have been week 2 against Westfield, and they, they definitely made a statement that night. They won that game 34-10, and, they went down to Louisville Trinity last week. I know we talked about that game last week before it happened as kind of being a measuring stick game, and they lost that game 41-28. But, kind of diving into that a little bit more, they had about a 8 or 9 minute stretch where just kind of everything went wrong, could go wrong, did go wrong. And, they still moved the ball really well. They just too many turnovers, especially during that stretch. So I think the fact that, they're still doing the things that Kevin does well, which is, he's been an offensive guy who likes to kind of do both, run and pass and kind of play off the run with the pass and those sorts of things. And they even did that against Trinity pretty well, just too many mistakes, like I said. So I definitely think what they're doing is for real. And, they play Columbus North tonight, which has been a good 6A team. I don't think they're probably in the same category as Carmel. And then they've got, a couple of weeks, they'll play Ben Davis and Warren back-to-back weeks. And, that'll be interesting to see how they handle those teams too. But I think there's a real chance for them to finish, the regular season with only this one loss. I mean, I don't see that as out of the realm of possibility, and probably end up, ranked either second or third in the state, going into the sectional, and we'll see what happens from there. But I definitely think the talent level's there, and definitely he's been able to kind of get the fuse lit with this team. And I definitely think what they're doing is for real. Just the overall vibe of the team when I was there for week 2, it's a very confident group that and the talent level is pretty good. I mean, they're not, it's not like they're doing this with smoke and mirrors either. It's a very good team.
Kyle, do you remember Napster, the music source Napster that was out 10, 15 years ago? And that went away, right? Didn't that go away because of lawsuits and things like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I haven't heard of it in a while.
Well, do you know the reason it went away and why all of the musicians all banded together? Do you know this?
Is this a pirate joke or?
No. I'm being serious about Napster here because it was very serious stuff at the time. But apparently, all of the musicians were upset because they weren't getting paid, and they claimed that everybody was actually just pirate the music.
I thought we were maybe headed down that road. I wasn't entirely sure, but
well, you know my favorite, Kyle. You know a pirate's favorite letter of the alphabet, don't you?
R.
No, it's the C. You can use that one on the kids. See, and again, I've used that every year for Talk Like a Pirate Day, but it's the hits that keep on coming and they never get old.
I appreciate you not hanging up, Kyle.
I'm telling you, the people go nuts for it. I wish we'd known, Eddie, as the producer of the program, you failed me here because if we'd let people know ahead of time that this was Talk Like a Pirate Day, I mean, right through, I'm telling you, through the roof is what the ratings would have done today. There's no question about it. Not that Kyle doesn't help in that regard, but okay, Kyle, one other thing I wanted to ask you. I thought a really good game last weekend between Cathedral and Chittard. That's to be expected with that rivalry. Cathedral is one of those programs that I'll give them credit. They go out and they really test themselves typically early in the year. They take some lumps, and then it all kind of comes together for them. That's kind of been Coach Peebles and Cathedral's MO, and I give them credit for that. Is that the case again this year, or is this a young team finding itself?
No, I think that's the case. Although the back half of their schedule is really tough. Also, Center Grove is still looming out there. The Warren Central game is the last game of the year. So we'll see. It's kind of a chance for them this week. They play Southport, which is struggling this year, but for a chance for them to probably get a for sure W tonight. But there's some tougher games out there. It's a team that I think they really I know he likes their line play and the guys up front that they have. They're a team that can run the ball with Pappas and Dangerfield, and it's been a group that I think is probably more built that way to and then throw off the run a little bit and set up the kind of set up the pass with the run. But I think still a very good team. And the thing about they're in 5A this year, so it's a little bit of a different route once they get to the tournament. But man, they're sectional. Also everything kind of is building up towards them to play New Pal in the sectional, and we'll kind of see where both teams are by the end of the season. But that's kind of been out there since the beginning. And then Plainfield's been probably even better than we expected going in. So they're also in that sectional. So you have those three teams just kind of sitting out there knowing that, kind of waiting for the sectional draw to happen to see when they're going to play each other because those are three of the top, I'd check where Plainfield is number 3 this week, actually one spot ahead of Cathedral. So 3 of the top 4 teams in the state in 5A are in the same sectional there. So everything kind of leads to that. If you stay healthy, if Cathedral can stay healthy, I think they'll be right, in that mix for sure. And, however they stack up with those two teams will tell the tale. Whoever wins that sectional could win state for sure.
And also we want to wish the best of luck tonight to Crystal House. I said at the beginning of the year that we were going to try to, just wish them luck each and every week. Those are kids that are trying to kind of build a program there. They have Irvington Prep tonight at 7 o'clock. Irvington Prep is that game. Lastly, Kyle, you ever covered a game at Merrillville?
No, but I know they're the Pirates.
Thank you for saving it.
What do you mean? I don't. Actually, Merrillville, Eddie, right there, not the region per se, but close to it. Really big city in Illinois, just north of there. Do you know what city that is?
I'm answering.
Alphabetically speaking, do you know what letter it begins with?
I am not answering.
Okay. That's a C, by the way, just so you know. See, you thought I was going to say it like in a pirate, right? No, I'm just telling you it starts with a C because we mentioned C's earlier, right? You know what letter right starts with? Arr. Kyle, appreciate it as always, man.
Eddie warned me, so there you go. I knew what I was getting into.
And you listen, you enjoyed it, did you not?
I did. I definitely did.
Look, there was some choppy water there for sure, right? But that's to be expected. You know why? Because it's a pirate ship. I mean, come on. All right, Kyle, appreciate it. Enjoy the game tonight.
All right, guys. Thank
Kyle
you.
Neddenrip joining us from the Indianapolis Star. Eddie, I can't believe that you waited till 1:35 to let me know it's Talk Like a Pirate Day.
I was debating on never bringing it up. I was like, well, if I don't, then he's going to get mad.
But
so
the Talk Like a
just
Pirate deal,
bring
it jumped the ship a while ago, admittedly.
Okay.
Jumped the shark
Okay.
in the ship. It's a pirate ship.
Okay. That's enough.
Pirates are kind of cool, though. Did you see the Buccaneers are wearing their creamsicles this weekend?
I did.
Against the Jets, right?
Yes.
So are the Jets wearing any sort of a retro?
I don't think so.
Hey, Jake, please go all day with this. Yes, I'm telling you. People love it. They go crazy for it.
I
Pirate
blame
talk.
you this for Eddie. Eddie, you had one job. We got halfway through the show. It's like pickle loaf or bologna. Only good once. Now it's all you hear, or in this case,
Do you know the difference between Indiana and a pirate? I just made this up right here off the top of my head. Right off the top of my head. Do you know the difference between Indiana and a pirate?
Charles would like to know who are these kids who likes us at 1:45 in the afternoon?
Eddie, would you like to know the difference between Indiana and a pirate?
Some people would like to know which is more authentic, the pirate or the British voice.
Well, actually, for all we know, my pirates might be Brits, right?
Now, Jake, can you? Here's a good one. Can you do a pirate talking about Ulysses Bentley IV being on the active roster in the first 2 games for the Colts?
That's the thing about Ulysses Bentley IV. And I like the fact he's on the roster. Yes, that is correct. Yes. Now, I notice that you're actually on the ship. We prefer to horse more by land and sea. Yeah, see? Now, I'm telling you, when we come back, I will tell you the difference between our home state of Indiana and a pirate. And you're going to say, I didn't realize that. No, you've been pondering it over the course of the commercial break.
Pondering what?
What is the difference between Indiana and a pirate? I made this joke up off the top of my head. That's how, just boom, it just came to me. Literally, I'm sitting here. You might have even seen like fairy dust, just boom, came into my head. Right there, top of my head. And you're thinking, I know you are, right?
No, I'm really not.
The difference between a pirate and Indiana is
Can you
very
sense
simple.
the level of enthusiasm in my voice? And I'm thrilled to hear what the difference is between a pirate and Indiana.
Listen, what I'm concerned about is our audience, and I can feel right now. I just got an alert on my phone that said the humidity outside went out. No, that's not humidity. That's tension.
Okay.
I'm just telling you. The difference, of course, would be the fact that Indiana has 2 eyes. See? See how I did that? I just made that up right there, top of my head.
Ah, that's a good one, Anthony. On the text line, there's no C in Indiana.
That's good, too. See, now you're going, right?
I'm not doing anything. That was Anthony. Someone did text in, Jake. Maybe now we know why Shannon hasn't taken the big step.
Yeah, you don't know that I haven't asked, and she didn't say, yeah, I need a little more time.
Oh, come on.
That's entirely possible, is it not? She might be still exploring her options.
You're telling me if you proposed and she turned you down, you would stay with her?
Listen, we already said I outkicked my coverage. Last night, I thought a really good game, and I made mention of it earlier. And Kevin Bowen going to join us here in just a couple minutes, and we'll get into the Colts Titans and run down some of the things from that game. But the Indiana Fever, and I get it, as I mentioned earlier. I get the fact that you want to hear this program because you want to hear primarily talking about the NFL and the Colts, and I certainly understand and respect and appreciate and acknowledge all of that.
Certainly not Pirates.
No, people do love the Pirates stuff, though. A lot of people this weekend just want to see the Tampa game just for that reason. But last night, the Fever, they were kind of chasing it all night. They got down early. They were down 7 towards the end of the half. They cut that down. Then they came out and they got it close to start the second half. And then Atlanta just kind of kept it in that 5-7 range for the better part of the second half until the midway through the fourth. The Fever tied the game up. Atlanta immediately went on a 5-0 run, and the Fever then got themselves down again.
With 2:30 left, it was 85-80.
And
Ryan Howard had just hit a big 3 to put Atlanta up by 5.
They closed on a 7-0 run to win it.
Yes.
But they tied the game with 6:06 left, and for nearly 3 minutes, they went without a basket. And it was frustrating because they were getting stops, but they just could not get over that hump and tie it up. And they were down 2 with 4:26 to go, and Atlanta had a possession that went out of bounds right in front of the Fever bench, and that bench erupted and they were in the midst of an anguish and a frustrating stretch where they just could not get baskets. But they got a stop right in front of the bench, and the bench exploded. And I thought to myself right then, this team is going to win. This team is going to win because they have a resiliency not only with that roster of players, many of which began the year not knowing if they were going to be in the WNBA this year, but also a resiliency of a team that, knowing that they have had a lot of injuries, have just continued to fight back. And I know that the WNBA is not the NFL in this town in terms of popularity or rank. I know that the Fever are not the Pacers in terms of household names, but it embodied what it is about this city that I think that we can come together to celebrate, and that was a collective effort of people from different backgrounds saying we all represent the same thing. And why not Indiana?
You manifested it on Wednesday during our chat with Stephanie White. You put her on the hook for another visit.
Yep. And here we go, right?
With some NSYNC.
Speaking of another visit, Kevin Bowen owes us one, and he'll do it next. Colts and Titans coming up in Nashville on Sunday. And for the Colts, for the most part, looking pretty good from a health standpoint. Tyler Warren yesterday was limited in practice. Laiatu Latu looks like is going to be a go. Joining us now on the show, and a guy that I am fairly certain, because I think he only had to endure 1 or 2. Matter of fact, I think he got a reprieve because one of the years that we were doing the morning show together, I believe, Talk Like a Pirate Day fell on the weekend, so he was spared in that regard. The other time, I think he and Mark tried to keep it from me, but word got out from my small parrot that on the shoulder let me know. Kevin Bowen, I'm sure thrilled to not be doing the show today with me on Talk Like a Pirate Day. Hi, Kevin.
Yeah, happy hour starting earlier on this Friday after I just got wind of that.
Mm-hmm. Did you say happy hour, by the way?
Oh, gosh. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, if you might just say, get yourself a Coke that obviously goes with rum. You know what I mean?
Eddie Garrison, I'm thinking about you, brother.
I'm just thankful you haven't hung up. You're helping me get through this.
Yeah, so final hour. Here we are.
Kevin, I thought last night, I was curious, and I know that we're only 2 weeks into the season, but Miami last night, and maybe Buffalo schematically took things off the gas. I don't know, but I thought that it was an encouraging sign for the Colts because, I mean, the Colts absolutely annihilated Miami. I mean, Miami was never in that game, and it's the opening week, so you just don't know. But with each week, you're trying to find out more and more how legitimate the perceptions are of a team. And I thought last night what that showed was that, you know what, maybe the Colts are legit because, maybe Miami is, in fact, more competent than we give them credit. But this week, in terms of week 3, is going to tell us a lot because I don't think Tennessee's very good at all, right? But wouldn't it be the sign of a young team to start out 2-0 or a team feeling its way and then go down and stub their toe? This could be a real opportunity for them to go 3-0. I just want your thoughts on what you think of Tennessee and, in addition, just what you think of the Colts' approach going into it.
Yeah, I think it's a big just kind of take care of business week game, be a professional, be disciplined. That's the word Shane Steichen's used the whole time this week. It's not one of these, I don't, like, people have brought, well, this is a trap game. I'm like, week 3 trap game, your first road game of the year, your first divisional game of the year. I can't play to me, in order for you to have trap games on your schedule, that means you need to have been good in recent years, good to great. I kind of look at trap games as, hey, it's a 10-week grind, and in week 7 or 8, sandwich the Jets around the Eagles and the Chiefs, or, the Eagles and the Bills, something like that. So I don't view it in that light, but I do view it in you are a road favorite. It is a rookie quarterback. You are going to be in an atmosphere that I would call one of the least hostile in the NFL. You need to go down there and, again, just take care of business. And the NFL presents some of these on the schedule. It's not maybe the greatest January indicator, but it counts as one of the W's or one of the L's. And when you only have 17 of them, all of them carry some weight, and the Division Ones carry, more weight. So, yeah, I think it's just kind of, a little businessy approach from the Colts here coming up Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Let's get to the health status, Kevin. I mean, I mentioned the 2 big ones in Warren and Laiatu. Where else do we stand in terms of, who's expected to be in, who may be out, et cetera?
Well, no Colts player was ruled out for the game, so that's obviously a good sign. Travarius Ward has a clearance from an independent neurologist, and that is his final step. So assuming he's good to go there, he should be back. And I guess kind of the question now becomes, with Tyler Warren, with, maybe Josh Downs, with Latu, it looked like all these guys practice the final 2 days of the week. That's usually a great sign that they'll play in the game. I think now the question becomes how much do they play in the game? Like Tyler Warren played 66 snaps on Sunday against the Broncos. That is a massive number for a tight end. So, are you comfortable giving him that number again on Sunday if needed, or do you, kind of hold him back and maybe pitch count him a little bit more? Same thing with Latu. Are you keeping him to only third down reps? Are you full, first and second him as well? So I think those are some of the questions. But, unless, Latu probably is the one, given it's a hamstring and, he's only been out for a week, unless they don't feel comfortable throwing him out there, I would think the Colts are going to be pretty healthy here in week 3. It more just comes down to, how many plays they want to give some of those guys.
Kevin Bowen is our guest. You, of course, hear him in the morning along with Jeff Rickard and James Boyd on the Fan Morning Show. Also on Wish Television with Anthony Calhoun weekly talking about the Colts. And in that vein, I have seen, Kevin, that you have been very bullish on, and I know it's just 2 games, on Daniel Jones and what he's done. And I think still you find yourself like rubbing your eyes. Like, is this, am I really seeing this here? Because the level of play that he has played, is it sustainable?
Yeah, that kind of, I thought the analogy was, pretty well that you just did there, pretty good. And in the sense of it is kind of like rub your eyes. The Colts are 2-0. I don't think that's like the most shocking element. It's more of how are they 2-0, and they're largely 2-0 because of Daniel Jones and because of their offense and because of Shane Steichen's play calling, all of that. That, I think, is what is truly, truly impressive. I thought the Denver game was a big step in the, oh my gosh, he's making some of these throws that are not just clean pockets. You brought up Miami earlier. I thought that Miami game, he just benefited Daniel Jones, that is, from such a clean operation in front of him. But that's not always going to be the case. And, you go back to that first throw of the game on Sunday. I mean, that is a muddy pocket. He hangs in there and delivers one touchdowns for a huge play. I mean, those are some of the plays where you start to, tier out quarterbacks and, you start to kind of rank them a little bit. That's what separates a lot of these guys. And now the question is, all right, more film is out there. How are you going to deliver on the road? How are you going to deliver, in third down, 2 minutes? With how the game played out, Shane Steichen just didn't have him throw the whole ball a whole lot there in the final, 5 or 10 minutes of that game. But, obviously as the season plays along, he's going to be in more and more of those moments, and he's going to have to deliver. So I would say game 2 for me, bless you, by the way. I would say game 2 for me showed a little bit more on the, wow, this, might be something. But, as we know, at the NFL, it's September 19th, and there'll be a whole lot more checkpoints and a whole lot more. Can you string it together? Can you do it away from home? A lot more on the evaluation card. So don't know if I can kind of slam the, build the statue next to Peyton yet, but I have been wildly impressed by the first 2 weeks.
Do you believe, Kevin, that as we go along here, that they will more open up the offense for Daniel Jones? And because, they are starting, we're starting to see he does have arm, and he's not afraid to show that. But is Shane Steichen played this close to the best so far offensively?
No. I think Daniel Jones, outside of like designed runs that Anthony Richardson you would have, I think Daniel Jones allows him to tap into much more of the Cheesecake Factory playbook menu than the, whatever steak and shake menu that, Anthony Richardson might have available to him. And I think you trust him to have, a ton of plays at the line of scrimmage. And, yeah, I think Daniel Jones is pretty football nerdy, and Shane Steichen is uber football nerdy. So I think he really enjoys that, and I think he really tries to tap into that. And I think the Colts feel like they have a big advantage chess match-wise, X's and O's, Monday through Saturday, even Sunday, some of the pre-snap stuff, and identifying things and knowing what coverage is coming, and boom, here's the first read, and, here are the answers if we get this sort of coverage. So, again, in the football nerdy atmosphere, I think quarterback, head coach, play caller-wise, I think the Colts feel like they walk into games here in 2025 with the advantage more often than not.
Do you consider yourself football nerdy?
I think I'm a nerd, but no. Shane Steichen's at, he's in Oxford, or he's at, some Ivy League level. That man, yeah, his football intellect is, you with whatever, Indy 500 history, or you with colognes or watches.
Fair enough. I actually take that as a compliment, Kevin. I'm not going to lie to you. By the way, somebody said you were making fun of me yesterday. Did you guys do the mayonnaise thing again?
Oh, yeah, we did. We did we didn't do the actual mayo plot, but we played the audio of the plop. Just a great acoustic. Yes, thank you. Gosh, Eddie, you were on that. Thank you. Can I hear that one more time, Eddie? Gosh, that's just beautiful. Just a ring in my ear. So Will Levis, of course, Mayo and his coffee, for those unfamiliar with that story. I believe Jake and I and Mark decided that, I think it was Mark and I mainly decided, we tried to kind of peer pressure Jake into it, to have to drink coffee with mayo in it if Will Levis started a game against the Colts. I want to say he started 2, so I think we had 2 instances. And I want to say you did one of those faking COVID things like you did last, I remember when you faked COVID to get out of the shrimp eating contest.
Yeah, I had COVID. Remember during the shrimp eating contest? I did the mayonnaise. I did it.
Did you do it both times?
No, you guys only did it. Did you do it twice? I did it once.
I think we did it twice, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and back then I've never liked coffee, and then I started getting samples at IndyCar races from Java House, and now I drink Java House like it's going out of style, just for what it's worth, but not with mayonnaise, because mayonnaise is horrific, right?
Shout out to Ed Carpenter Racing. I would say the top of that coffee with the mayonnaise, it looked like a state fair porter potty on day 14.
It was rough, man. It was rough. I believe Mark's line was, "That'll put some lead in your pencil." It was rough, man. I remember I believe you took the first sip. So Will Levis, that was, during that, to rehash that, yes, he was rumored to be coming to the Colts. And when you did it, Mark, I remember you saying, like, oh gosh, it like curdled right away, right?
Oh yeah, my gag reflex. Oh, I can feel myself all of a sudden start to have a reflex.
It was
right now.
Rough,
I
man.
was so, not that I root for injuries for any player, but when Will Levis I saw was going to miss the whole season due to a shoulder injury, let's just say, wasn't the end of the world thinking about having to consume any more mayo in the coffee.
How many games in the NFL in his career remaining do you believe Will Levis starts?
Oh boy, that's a good one. I will say over under of 3.5.
I was going to say over under of 5. I mean, Malik Willis still gets a start here and there. I could see him in that kind of a role, right?
Yeah, some of these backup. Carson Wentz 6 straight years. There's got to be a Fitzpatrick or a McCown still hanging around somewhere. I feel like Jacoby Brissett's turned into the new one.
Yeah.
Of he's now just made great money as this backup quarterback. So. Levis certainly not in Tennessee, but somebody will bring him in, and somebody will get hurt.
Marcus Mariota's become that guy as well.
Yeah, he's starting on Sunday. Yeah,
mm-hmm. He is starting in Washington,
exactly.
Isn't he?
Right. Yeah.
Eddie, you had a defensive question?
Yeah, Kev. Jake and I were talking about this Monday, and I think you and I touched on it on the Monday recap pod. But you look at this Colts defense, specifically on the line, and I'm going to get into a little bit of a nerdy statistic here, so bear with me. ESPN has pass rush win rate percentages and run stop win rate percentages. According to their, however they evaluate these things, the Colts rank 32nd, 19% pass rush win rate, and 25th in the NFL, 27% on run stop win rate. If that's something this Colts defensive line can't do on Sunday against Cam Ward, like Los Angeles and Denver has so far, I think that's where the trap game element that you were talking about with Jake comes into play, just because this may be the one time in his career so far where Ward may have some time in the pocket to find the open guy, or they may be able to start running the ball effectively with Tony Pollard.
Yeah, I think from a worthy standpoint about Sunday, it would be this. Pollard, I think, has forced the most missed tackles in the league so far of any running back. I don't need to bring up the infamous 3rd and 19 touchdown Tony Pollard scored last year, where the Colts just tackled horrifically on the play, probably honestly ended the Gus Bradley tenure. And then Cam Ward, you saw the touchdown last week. It has the backyard element to it. That would probably be the one thing, but maybe the most disappointing aspect to this Colts season so far is probably the pass rush, and just in general, Eddie, I'd say the defensive front and their playmaking. I just cannot count, and linebackers are included in this. I just can't. I don't remember many plays at all in the first 2 weeks. So I do think that's an area where Tennessee, their O-line is not good, and I think if you ask the Colts, they would have a whole lot of yes, we have a wide grin and big ol' eyes thinking about the possibilities of getting after Cam Ward. So kind of a get-right game there. Again, go back to the first point we had. I don't know if like that all of a sudden means, oh, the pass rush is fixed. You're going to have to string some things together and prove it week in and week out. But you play what shows up on Sunday, and this is what the opportunity is.
I ask you that because in week 1, JT Tuimoloau, who they just used a second-round pick on in the April draft, was a healthy scratch. He was active last week because of Latu being sidelined with the hammy. He played 5 snaps. What does a player like him have to do to get on the field just because this isn't a guy they took in the 5th or the 6th round? This is a guy that they used a premium pick on who not only was not playing at some non-Power 5 directional school, he was playing at Ohio State, and he was productive for the national champions.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, the final point that you bring there. I mean, 3-year starter and, had a great run through their playoff. Yeah, to further that point, it's not like some of these pass rushers you see drafted high, they're a little bit of a project. They maybe didn't have the eye-popping stats, and, maybe they only started for 1 year. That's not Tuimoloau at all, and he can line up at multiple spots. And I think you saw that in camp in the preseason. So it is confusing to me. Lou Anarumo has never been a big play the young guys guy, so maybe I'm reading too much into that. But I just think the Colts, frankly, they have a bunch of power rushers. They don't have a lot of speed, and Latu is probably the one kind of speed bending edge rusher that you would have. So his absence last week was clearly felt, but definitely that is a big storyline, I think, moving forward. When you play, Kyler Murray, and you play Justin Herbert, and you play Patrick Mahomes, and you play, C.J. Stroud, some of these other quarterbacks on the schedule, can your pass rush show up? Because it's been pretty absent through the first 2 weeks.
Kevin, which game is of more intrigue to you? Kevin Bowen, our guest. Indiana, Illinois, I heard you talking about this morning, or Purdue, Notre Dame.
Oh, don't ask dumb questions. I mean,
No.
you know who you're talking to here.
Well, let me rephrase that. I mean, I'm not talking about from a fan perspective which one you're more excited about. Like, which game do you actually think has the more intriguing storyline?
Yeah, easily Saturday night. I mean, obviously, I was speaking very selfishly out of my fandom that probably needs to be checked a little bit. But yes, Saturday night. I mean, Jake, you know that campus, you know that atmosphere full well. I mean, I just can't recall a game that has this. And I get Michigan last year kind of had it, but this to me is different because the opponent also has a ton at stake, and both of these programs are not really used to these types of games, frankly. 42 years, I think is the stat, or not 42, but 87, I believe, the last time. You got to go back to that for a top 20 matchup in Bloomington. So, and this is it really from a home schedule. When you look at a lot of the big games the rest of the year are more on the road side of it for Indiana. So what an atmosphere. I mean, college towns, this is what you dream of, is the home night college football game. Frankly, I think College Game Day should be there. I think it's a joke. It's not. And then on top of all of it, it is the playoff ramifications with it as well. So cannot wait for Saturday night, certainly.
Be a lot of fun, and we will certainly look forward to hearing on Monday. James Boyd, I know, was chirping pretty loud from that Illinois standpoint. You mentioned the RCA Dome, Illinois fans traveling ILL, I against Notre Dame in basketball some 20 years ago. But we'll see what happens Saturday night, and as well Notre Dame and Purdue on Saturday afternoon. Kevin, by the way, did your son make his pick yet?
He did, yeah. I still need to post it. He went left-hand Tongs, and he went Colts because, they're the away team. We went outdoors, so Mother Nature for Sunday. So the elements led him to the Colts. The Titans helmet, as you know, nothing too crazy. He called it the Broncos. He's confused clearly. But
what's Max's record now on the season so far?
Well, 1-1, he's split. I think he's 21-15 overall. And the next week, Rams, I actually pulled that helmet out last night to get ready for next week. That's just a stripe on it. So I would expect him to pick Colts here the next couple of weeks.
We got to remember, we have the asterisks next to the Miami Dolphins on the lost side, Kevin, because it was influenced by his mom.
She did kind of. Yeah, she did. Well, to be honest, I mean, he loves Dolphins more than, again, Jake loves Cologne. I think he was going Dolphins no matter what there.
I'm kind of more on a watch kick than a Cologne kick, just so you know.
Oh, okay, well, Duly noted here. Whenever you and I cross paths on air again, I'll make sure to bump that up to the jQuery setup topics.
That's right. I do like colognes, though. Kevin, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the games, too. It should be a good weekend of games all the way around.
Boys, have a great weekend.
All right, Kevin Bowen joining us on the program. I'm thinking about doing another purge on the colognes. Eddie, you want any cologne?
Sure. Why not?
What's more your palate?
I don't know.
Do you like more of the like fruity scent? Do you like more of a clean scent? Do you like more of the rum scent for the pirate? I mean,
Clean.
Clean? Okay. Got a couple that fit that. Some of the better colognes I have are inexpensive colognes. That's what's funny. I've got some that are fabulous that are expensive, and then I've got some that are fabulous that were like $20. You just never know, right? A lot of that, they say, is, this, it has to do with the way it blends with your particular pheromones. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Or the oils of your skin, which sounds disgusting, does it not? When you mention it that way, oils of the skin.
And, you've been doing the pirate stuff now for almost an hour, and we haven't gotten the scallywag yet, or the plank reference.
Oh, I said plank.
No, a walk the plank. We didn't get a walk the plank.
Yeah, I did.
No, you didn't.
I absolutely did.
Nope.
Right off the top.
Oh, that's right. I may have not have been listening.
That's right. Somebody asked me this. How many professional sports teams have a pirate-related name? You got the Buccaneers, right?
The Pirates.
Obviously, the Pittsburgh Pirates.
The Columbus Blue Jackets fire off a cannon, like a pirate ship cannon,
Like the
when they
Bucks do?
score. Yeah.
Are there other? There's got to. I'm trying to. I'm. Somebody help me out here because it's escaping me. There is some other, like a buccaneer is like in the realm of pirate, right? Isn't a buccaneer like an assistant to a pirate kind of thing?
Kind of, yeah.
It's the pirate's posse. There's another one that's in that same vein. I mean,
the Red Raider?
Huh?
The Red Raider?
Yeah, I mean, Raiders and Vikings, you could argue, have like some tendency to it. Like, I think maybe some would tell you that like all Raiders are pirates, but not all pirates are Raiders, that kind of thing. A marauder, for example, is a pirate, but on land, correct? Isn't a marauder?
Sure.
What's that?
Sure.
I think a marauder is like a pirate, but they travel like on horseback, not on boat. I think. Maybe once a pirate hits land, then he's like, now we're marauders. And they just, you know what I mean?
Cavalier?
Cavalier. Thank you. That's a good one. No, wait a minute. Cavaliers are good guys, aren't they?
I don't know. I was just thinking.
They use a sword, right?
Yeah.
Can you look up what a cavalier is? I want to say a cavalier is more like in like British knighthood type thing.
Horseman. It denotes a horseman or knight, particularly a mounted soldier.
Okay, there you go. So that's more like in the Ulysses Bentley, perhaps more in the cavalier mode. But the pirates, on the other hand, okay, so yeah, pirates, buccaneers, who are we missing?
Mentioned Raiders.
Raiders, not bad, but I think Raiders, again, can you look up definition of Raider? I think Raider and Marauder are basically pirates on land, right? Marauders in particular, I think, are known for like, tearing into towns and pillaging stuff and, just kind of tearing stuff up in general, right? Knocking stuff over, just troublemakers in general.
A person who attacks an enemy in enemy's territory. A marauder.
That's a marauder?
That's a raider.
Okay. Now, look up marauder. I'm going to say that marauder, it says one who goes in and creates havoc and pillages villages, that rhymes, on land, via land. I think land is the key word here. I'm hoping land is the key word.
Someone who roams from place to place making attacks and raids in search of plunder.
I'm just looking for plunder. I'm just roaming around looking for plunder. You know how many marauders there are on Washington Street? Good Lord. You know what that means? It is a Franciscan Health Feel Good, Good for the Heart Friday. And it has been, and listen again, I want to thank everybody for reaching out to me, letting me know, and I mean that in a good way, in a positive way, good or bad, their results of heart scans and the importance of getting a heart scan. It's just $49 at Franciscan Health. And, you know, you hear the conversation and the talk on this radio station about, think about your car. You know, you would never get in your car, and if you knew that the engine was knocking and you were worried about whether or not the transmission was slipping, and your heart is kind of the same thing. You want to make sure that all the pistons are working and make sure that you're getting the oil changed on time. That's exactly what your heart is asking you to do, just to be aware of the importance of your heart health. And a heart scan is a really good way to do that. It's just $49. It's non-invasive. It literally takes, the process itself is probably 15 or 20 minutes. And I'll get you all the information on where you can get signed up for a heart scan at Franciscan Health. And make sure that you get it. You can pay out of pocket. Very easy to do. I just had, and there's a reason I bring this up for this week's story. Last week I mentioned that I had a heart stress test, which is where you basically, I was on the treadmill for, I think it was 13 minutes. So you get on the treadmill, you get the wires put on you, and, and this is a pretty elaborate thing. This isn't something that you would just do unless there was, you had, like I do in my case, a cardiovascular history. But the stress test itself, you get on the treadmill, you run, they look at your heart, they're able to see the imaging of it. And then the hardest part, to be honest with you, is afterwards you have to lay on a table and hold your breath, which is really hard to do because you're getting your heart rate up to a certain point so that they can get all the imaging of your heart while it's at its most stressed point. But I was on the treadmill, and, I think I've made no bones about the fact that that's something that I've done a lot of running and done the many each and every year. And so I have the utmost respect for people that do exactly that. And then in doing that stress test, realizing and recognizing the respect that you have to have for people that are running when they are making that even more challenging for themselves. Thankfully for me in that situation, it was 13 minutes and done, right? I think a lot about, for example, Terry Fox, who was a Canadian in the early 80s. There's a 30 for 30 about it that's unbelievable, about how he ran a marathon every day for like 130 straight days using a prosthetic across Canada to raise money in the early 80s. And I think about people like that, and it truly is remarkable. And there's a guy that I know that I used to work with named Jordan Stoner. Jordan started running just for his own, I guess, entertainment and to get in shape and just to kind of clear his head at times. And then he began running for a purpose, and every once in a while he'll reach out to me because he is doing runs that are fundraisers for different events or different organizations. And one of those that he does is the Chicago Marathon. And so I wanted to see when the Chicago Marathon was, and for that matter, I wanted to look up how Jordan did in the Chicago Marathon. And when I was Googling his name and Chicago Marathon, I came across the name of Jordan Bergman in the Chicago Marathon. And it took me to a story that I thought was both awesome, inspiring, and heartfelt. And I think it speaks to the essence, as I mentioned off the top of this show, of sport. And when I looked up and saw Jordan's story, Jordan Bergman, and the Chicago Marathon, the reason that it clicked when I Googled that is this. Jordan is the father of Susan and Jeffrey Bergman. And Susan is about actually just 10 months older than Jeffrey. So, they were very close in age to one another at the time that, Irish twins, as we say, right? Two children that were born to the same parents, very close to one another. And when Jeffrey was just 22 months old, he suffered an infant cardiac arrest. Again, heart-related here, right? And while he survived, that terrible incident caused him to suffer then for the rest of his life to this day a essentially cerebral palsy because of the lack of oxygen that went to his brain during that. And as a result, he was confined to a wheelchair. And Susan enjoyed running, started running in cross country in high school, but she was very close to her brother. And routinely, she heard people mention that it was too bad that her brother couldn't participate in sports. And she believed actually that her brother could do whatever he wanted to. And if he wanted to participate in sports, there would be no reason why she shouldn't facilitate that. So for 4 years and through college, she was a cross-country runner. But during the time that she was a cross-country runner in high school, she ran every single event while pushing her brother in a wheelchair. And you see this at the mini marathon from time to time. And when you're running or you're doing whatever it is that you may do, then you see something like that and you find an inspiration in it. And in this case, it is something that started tragically with an incident with a young person and a heart ailment. And it grew from there into something that not only was inspiring in the fact of Susan running with her brother and pushing his wheelchair through cross-country meets all through high school and then ultimately into her college career, but it led her in her college career to become to work in the nursing field, in the medical field, in physical therapy, to assist people like her brother that had their own journey of trying to find what it was to be, break through their own ceiling. The reason that it all came about and the reason I thought it was cool and the reason it's applicable and timely now is because even though Susan is no longer running because she's busy with her own career, her father decided that, in fact, her brother needed to run the Chicago Marathon. So that is why in 3 weeks, Jordan will run the Chicago Marathon, and he will do so for all 26 miles while pushing the wheelchair of his now teenaged son in Jeffrey. And I think it speaks to the point of two things. The first being limitation, restriction, ceiling on things oftentimes is relative. Yes, of course, if you suffer paralysis, I understand the fact that some things may not be a reality for you in terms of a physical nature. But it doesn't mean that with the right people around you, with the right vision, and with the right compassion, that you can't come together to reach some sort of a common goal or just simply redefine the boundary lines of what somebody may have. And when I saw that story, that was the first thing I thought of, was the fact that here was a situation where, when I was doing that stress test and I had to lay on that table and then, hold out my breath, it was not easy. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't the worst thing in the world. But when I'm going through it, then I think about those that would love the opportunity to be able to do that just once. And I think we can apply that to all aspects and all walks of what it is that we do. And I certainly understand that you have the days where you don't want to get up and do whatever it might be that you have to do that day. And I certainly understand that there are days where the report the boss wants done by 5, you want to pull your hair out. But then you think about people that would do anything just for the opportunity to do that one more time, or that maybe just need a little push to be able to do it themselves. And I think those examples in sport, as I talked about at the front of this show, if you look at the Fever last night and what the Fever did, the Fever as a team last night won a game that encapsulated their season. They were down 5 in the last minute of the game. They scored the last 7 points of the game. They did so with players, many of which didn't know if they were going to be on a WNBA roster at the beginning of the year, with players who were the substitute for the substitute of a starter that went down for the year. And while everybody else might have looked at the Fever season when some of their bigger stars went out and counted them out, they did not. And it was about rallying together. And in a time when I think in this world we most need to see it, there are examples around us everywhere of the importance of coming together in camaraderie as opposed to finding divisiveness and difference. And I think this example is one of them. You have 2 siblings who had life lay out in different ways for them, but the familial bond allowed them a goal, and that continued with the dad, and that continues to push people and inspire people elsewhere, including on this radio show from my standpoint. And I commend them. I want to thank the Bergmans for doing it, and I think it's awesome, and I think it's going to be an awesome thing to see that Jordan is able to do that in the Chicago Marathon. As for you and the step that you can take towards heart health, again, $49 heart scan at Franciscan Health. franciscanhealth.org/screening bundles is the website where you can find all the information. That's franciscanhealth.org/screening bundles, or you can always call 833-238-0688. That's 833-238-0688 to schedule your heart scan. We'll come back. We'll put a tie on all of it. We'll hand it off to John as part of the crossover, and Eddie and I will give you our predictions for Sunday as well. All when we come back to this Talk Like a Pirate Day, and are you so proud I didn't even do it in that segment on Query and Company here on The Fan. Now, Eddie, you have to admit it. You don't want to admit it, but you have to admit it. This is a catchy song, is it not?
Sure, Jake.
It is. It's catchy.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sure.
I'm telling you. I think it's Ailstorm that sings that song. Jason Bush is a fan. I think he's seen them in concert, as a matter of fact. I don't know that I'd go that far, but you ought to see the parking lot out front. Just ships everywhere whenever they play, right? I'm just telling you. You know, the dock, as they call it. JMV is, I believe, in the Castleton area at Twin Peaks, where he will be for the remainder of the day, getting you set for the Colts and the Titans coming up on Sunday. The crossover now brought to you by Love Heating and Air, love-hvac.com. 317, I should say, 353-2141. John, big show lined up today?
Yeah, hey, Jake, can you hold on a minute? Because our good friend Fulton just called the house phone here at Twin Peaks. Can I go over and pick that up?
Sure. No problem.
Hold on. Stop the show for a minute. Fulton's on the house phone here. So let me go get him real quick. Yeah, he just, in fact, just called, Jake. He did.
Okay, well.
True story. Yeah.
That's
Fulton's
cool.
here. But I'm going to hang with you because we got some stuff to get to. It's going to be a fantastic weekend. Man, September's got the best weather of all time. Does it not?
No
Seriously.
question.
Yeah.
No question. And listen, it's going to be, you know, we'll start with Memorial Stadium, I guess, tomorrow night. I know Purdue Notre Dame's big, but that Indiana-Illinois game tomorrow night that'll be an awesome atmosphere.
Oh, can you imagine? Now, we have work to do. I don't know. You could probably get down there. Can you imagine hanging out there this weekend?
Oh.
The awesomeness that would be. I don't know. This was a little bit before you, and I was still at the tail end of high school, but maybe a little bit into college when they were having football success with Bill Mallory.
Oh, yeah.
And how fun it was around there. That's when Trent Green was walking around and the chicks were swooning and such, and I was really jealous.
Well,
those
I
are
remember
great times down there.
I mean, you remember when Anthony Thompson went wild against Ohio State, and
yeah.
I mean, you know, I remember Indiana being up 28-0 on Ohio State and just thinking, like, what in the world is happening here? And then Earl Bruce the next year said it was the darkest day in Ohio State history. And, you know, Vaughn Dunbar was my favorite of that era.
Yeah.
I loved Vaughn Dunbar.
I would agree with you on that. I loved Ernie Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Wide
Should have won the
receiver,
Heisman.
and I absolutely loved Thomas Lewis, the wide receiver.
Thomas
Two wide
Lewis had,
receivers.
you remember when Thomas Lewis had, at the time, I believe, the longest touchdown reception at Penn State in Beaver Stadium history, right?
Yeah, he did. And I believe drafted round number 1. Did he not get drafted in the first round by the Giants?
Giants, and then never heard from again, right?
Yeah. But, man, I loved Ernie Jones, too. Ernie Jones was just spectacular. What great team. Dave Snell, the quarterback.
Yeah.
Great
Van
era right
Waiters.
there, too.
Van Waiters was a hell of a linebacker for him back then.
Mike Dumas in the secondary was a badass, too. Yeah, fun times.
Dumas had a pick, I think it was a 99-yard pick return against Purdue, and Eric Hunter threw him down at the 1-yard line, chased him down and threw him down at the 1-yard line. But there was some good times, man.
It was. That's how good it can be. I can imagine how fun it's going to be this weekend, starting tonight down in Bloomington. Just great.
Top 10, Illinois coming in ranked 9th, taking on Indiana, Kurt Signetti's group. I do think Indiana will win, actually. Purdue Notre Dame is going to be interesting. And then Sunday, John, Sunday's intriguing, too, because it looks on paper like the Colts, you know, I mean, Tennessee doesn't jump out at you. But then again, I mean, we saw last night, who in the world would have guessed that Miami would have given Buffalo a game? So who knows, right?
Yeah, well, listen, the Colts still, I think, can be the Colts that we know. We've just been given a great reason to feel good. Plus, Jake, you play off of that game on Sunday. They haven't had good fortune in a while, and that was some good fortune because that should have been an L. Their coach should be absolutely being shredded this week for that being an L. But, man, good fortune comes along with you playing well, executing, and that's when you know you may have something, when all of a sudden good fortune rides shotgun. And we saw that on Sunday.
Yeah, listen. Like I said, with it's so funny how relative it is, John, because Denver with that field goal, you know, if they don't have that penalty and the Colts lose that game, imagine like the doom and gloom we would have been hearing all week long, right? And instead, it's like they're 2-0. You know, they're right there.
Yes.
You see all these memes of the undefeated, and you know, you look at it and your mind starts racing because you're like, man, if they beat Tennessee, then they're 3-0, and they go into the Rams, and who knows? And etc. So a lot to unpack, a lot to decipher from it.
Hey, Jay, can I ask you this? Kelsey Mitchell is the best player to me by far on that team. This is nothing against Caitlin Clark, who's injured right now. But Kelsey Mitchell, I love watching her play because she's the quickest player always on the floor, and she's left-handed, and that blanks everybody up.
Totally.
I absolutely love watching her play.
I would agree with that. And last night I thought there were times where they were becoming too reliant on getting the three going, and it kind of caused them to stall a little bit. And then Mitchell got a little more aggressive with the basketball, and then Lexi Hull hits a shot, and then you're back in it. I thought that was great fun last night. Listen, I know people can say whatever, but the last 5 to 7 minutes of that game last night were awesome.
I'd tell you the other thing, too. How in the world is Odyssey Sims not on somebody's team? Who deems her not worthy of being already on somebody else's team?
I know. Well,
I mean, who the hell? What numbnuts made those decisions?
Again,
Holy
I guess
crap, she's good.
It's just the fact that you don't have 32 teams, right? I mean, so you're going to have plenty of players available that are capable players.
Yeah. Does it make it easier to find players like that, too, in a pinch, as the Fever have? Because you've got a lot of light players still available out there?
That's it. I mean, it's the fact that you only have so many teams as opposed to 32 that you would have in the NBA. But all right, John, we'll throw it out to you here in a minute, all right?
You got it, brother.
JMV out at Twin Peaks on the north side. He will be there coming up for the remainder of the day. Eddie, your score prediction for the Colts and Titans coming up.
I've got Horse winning 30-17.
Yeah, that's hard to argue that. I think offensively, Tennessee just does not look like a team that's going to be able to effectively move the football, right? I'll say, 27. What'd you say, 30-17? I'll give benefit of the doubt here. All right, how about this? 20-13. 20-13 Colts win. But I would agree with you, the Colts win. All right, we will be back with you at noon on Monday to recap all of it. Have a wonderful weekend, and I thank you for listening to Query & Company.